This is a short video showing the proper use of the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility in the UAN payroll software. You're probably asking, when should I use the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility? You may never have used it before. Well, it's not very common. When you have a payroll withholding that needs to be increased, and you say, well, why would I need to increase my payroll withholding? Well, let's say you want to take the employee share of insurance from payroll and add the employer share to it, so you have one payment for health insurance. We would take the payroll payment from the payroll software, send it over to accounting where you can add the employer share. Of course, you would also use this process if you had to add a penalty to your payment for paying late. Sometimes the payroll payment needs to be decreased. Well, why would you need to decrease your payroll payment? Most of the time that's because you are a new fiscal officer and you have found a large employer credit available on the OPERS or OP and FPF website. Once again, we're going to clear the payroll withholding, send it over to accounting where you can decrease the payment by the credit. Sometimes a withholding was paid from accounting. So we get clients who say, my withholding is unpaid in the payroll software, but I know I paid it. I used an accounting electronic payment. Well, in that case, we simply need to clear the unpaid withholding from payroll. And then we have other withholdings that simply do not need to be included on a posted payment. Those include those rare occurrences when you use the wage adjustment utility. You may create credits that will not be needed on the next miscellaneous payment. I want to give you a few words of warning. You should do a proper evaluation of unpaid withholdings before deciding to clear them from payroll. Each of our examples in this video were fully researched in our earlier video, Evaluate Unpaid Withholdings. Improper use of the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility can make a mess of your payroll. Now let's go to the UAN software and I'll show you the proper use of the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility. It is December 6th in Training Land, and I've done a thorough evaluation of my unpaid withholdings. I've taken detailed notes to keep for my audit. I'll show you what I've found and point out the items that require the use of the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility and those that require a different action. I made notes on my withholding summary unpaid for regular and for state retirement. On my withholding summary unpaid for regular withholdings, the first issue I found was unpaid dental insurance from a prior year. When I researched, I found that it was all my employee share of dental insurance from December of last year, and I was able to confirm that the dental insurance payment was made from accounting for the full amount due. So this employee share left unpaid in the payroll software can be cleared. To clear the unpaid withholding, I go to Payroll, Utilities, and Unpaid Withholding Clear. I have to select the withholding type, and in my example, I need regular. You always receive this cautionary warning message because if you misuse the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility, you're going to make a mess of your payroll. I'll say OK to that message, and the software brings me to the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility for regular withholdings. The software always defaults to the oldest unpaid, and that might not be what you want. In my case, that's exactly what I need, so I'm going to leave the year 2017 and the month of December. I have to select the frequencies, and then in the right, I select the dental insurance. That's my only unpaid withholding from a prior year. If you had multiple items listed here, they may require different actions. Don't get click happy. Select only what you need to resolve an issue. I'm going to click the display to display a report, and the software automatically takes me to the withholding detail unpaid for the date range and frequencies I've selected. This is showing me the list of account codes that made up the employee share. I might want to print this and make sure my accounting payment was properly allocated. To print, I would simply click the print icon in the upper left corner. I'm going to close, and now I'm going to select the wages in the list. That's going to give me the employee share of $216 that I was looking for, and I'm going to enter a clear date, and my clear date is going to be today. When I click the Post button, I received this system message. At least one of the selected withholdings was originally encumbered in a prior year. So when I'm clearing it now in a later year, I'm not going to get that encumbrance back in my resources available for appropriations. I click OK. And my next system message is asking if I want to create a batch payment in accounting for the cleared withholdings. Now in this case the answer is no. That payment was already made in January. So when I click no, the form defaults to the next oldest unpaid withholding, and I don't really need to concern myself with that. In the bottom left corner, it shows that I cleared $216 of unpaid withholdings, and that was my goal. I can close the form. There's one problem resolved. Let's take a look at the next. I'm going to take a look at my state retirement prior year withholdings. We had an issue there as well. I discovered that my OPERS from December was paid from accounting to include a large employer credit. The unpaid withholdings from the prior year are no longer required and can be cleared. Let me show you that as well. When I select Unpaid Withholding Clear, I'm going to choose State Retirement. I received the system message that the utility should be used to clear unpaid withholdings if they will be or have been paid from accounting, so I'm using it properly. We'll click OK. And again, the software is going to default to the oldest unpaid state retirement. And in my case, December of 2017 is what I need. I'm going to select both of my frequencies and select OPERS from the withholding list. I'm going to display my report. And the software takes me to the withholding detail unpaid to show me the account codes for the employee and employer share of OPERS. Again, use the print icon in the upper left corner to print this report. And close. I select my wages, and the clear date I'm going to use is today's date. And click Post. That first warning message I receive is explaining to me that at least one of the selected withholdings was originally encumbered in a prior year, and that means I will not gain the unencumbered balance when I clear this. I click OK to that message. And the next message, of course, is do I want to create a batch payment in accounting? Again, that payment was posted in January. I don't need to create an accounting payment, so I say no. The form defaults back to the oldest unpaid. I don't need to do anything with that. And in the bottom left corner, it shows I cleared $3,832.16 of unpaid withholdings. And I can close the form. Let's take a look at our next problem that needs to be resolved. As I look forward on my state retirement unpaid withholdings, the next problem is a negative in the month of August. And this was because a wage was voided after withholdings were paid. I cannot use the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility to resolve this problem. Let's move on to the next. This is a wage posted with the wrong pay period. Again, I am not going to use the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility to correct this problem. I have to correct the pay period so that these wages will report as required. So I don't clear them. These last two items have to be corrected using another method. Back on my withholding summary unpaid for regular withholdings, I'll scroll forward in the year to see the problems that still require action. In September, I have the withholding overpayment credits created by voiding a wage that had paid withholdings. I cannot use the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility to resolve those issues. I'll provide more information about how to resolve this problem at the end of this video. In October, the Little Village income tax is not a problem. I pay them quarterly, so October, November, and December will be paid at once when it's due. But the next two items, the school taxes from October, should have been paid. I verified that the payment had not been made online when it should have been paid. I printed the school tax reports for October and I have made the online payment. they charged me a penalty of 89 cents that must be added to my school tax payment voucher in UAN. I'll use the unpaid withholding clear utility to combine the taxes with the penalty onto one payment. I'll show you how. We still go to Payroll Utilities and Unpaid Withholding Clear, and I select Regular. I receive the warning, only use this utility for the proper purposes, and click OK. Now the software is going to default to the oldest unpaid, and I have to be careful to choose the correct month and year for my purposes. October is accurate. I'm going to select my frequencies, and I'm only going to choose the two school taxes, East and West, and display the report. The software takes me to the withholding detail unpaid for the date range I've selected, and the software shows me the appropriation accounts that make up the payment. I can print this report by clicking the print icon in the upper left corner and then close. I select the wages in the list, I verify the amounts are accurate, and I give this a clear date. In this case, my clear date needs to be the date I made the online payment, and that was yesterday. So I'm going to choose December 5th and click Post. And I receive the question, create a batch payment in accounting for the cleared withholdings. In this case, the answer is yes. The software needs to know, am I going to print a warrant or am I going to choose electronic? I made an online payment, so I choose electronic. The screen defaults back to the oldest unpaid withholding. That does not concern me. In the bottom left corner, I see the software's confirmation that it cleared the $147.41 of unpaid withholdings, and I click Close. But I'm not finished. I need to go to Accounting, Transactions, and Payments. And there is my electronic payment to the Ohio School District income tax. I'm not ready to edit that payment. The 89-cent penalty is going to require a purchase order. I'm not going to pay a penalty from a salary account. So I have to view a couple of things before I can move forward. Well, number one, this vendor has to be available in accounting to create a purchase order. I had better check that first. We go to General, Maintenance, and Vendor Payees. I'm going to change the type from all to payroll withholdings so I can see my Ohio School District income tax that is available in payroll. This is the vendor that's used on that accounting payment that I sent over. I'm going to click Edit. This would have been a problem. I need to make sure this is available in accounting and click Save. Now I can go to Accounting, Transactions, and Purchase Orders and add a purchase order. It was actually for yesterday. Probably should do it then and now. And I need to use the same vendor. The same one I used with the payroll withholdings. My issue date is today. My certified date is today. My then date is yesterday. My quantity is 1. Penalty for late payment. And I distribute that. Make sure you're applying your penalty to the proper appropriation account for your situation. Our account codes are examples only. And now that I've distributed my entire 89 cents, I can click Save. I don't need a vendor location, and close. I post my purchase order, and it printed successfully. Now I can edit my payment, and I can add the penalty to the withholdings. I'm going to import my purchase order. It was a PO then and now. And I'm going to import both the detail and the distribution. Okay, if you didn't import the purchase order, of course, you would have to add the detail line and then add the distribution. I verify that the total amount of my payment matches my online payment exactly. My post date is the actual date I made the online payment, and I click Save. I don't need a vendor location. This is an electronic payment, and close. Post the electronic payment. I click OK. Yes, it printed successfully, and that's how you add a penalty to your withholding payment using the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility. The process to combine the employee and employer share of insurance to create one payment in UAN is similar to the process I just showed you. The main difference is you aren't correcting a problem from several months ago. You use the process on a monthly basis. Therefore, the vendor payee and the purchase orders should already be in place. Let me walk you through an example. Remember, it's December 6th, and our health and dental insurance companies email us the monthly invoice and advise us what date the amount will come out of our bank account. I should be prepared to post the payment on that date. In my case, the payments are scheduled to come out of our bank account today. I go to Payroll, Utilities, and Unpaid Withholding Clear, and choose Regular. I'm going to clear the payment and send it to accounting, so I'm using the utility for the proper purpose. I click OK. The form always defaults to the oldest unpaid, but I don't need October withholdings. For Sample Buckeye Township, I need the November insurance withholdings to pay the December insurance invoice. It may be different at your entity. I'm going to change my month to November and select my frequencies. And in the list of withholdings, I need to be very careful and only choose those that I'm going to pay from accounting: the dental insurance and the health insurance. And then I display a report. The software takes me to the withholding detail unpaid, and it shows me the appropriation accounts that make up the employee share of the withholding. I'm going to click the print icon and then close the form. I select the wages and make sure that the employee share matches the amounts I expected on my report. My clear date is today, and I click Post. There's my question: do I want to create a batch payment in accounting for the cleared withholdings? Yes, I do. And then it wants to know which type. Well, if the insurance company is taking this out of my bank account, I would choose electronic. If you are going to create one check for the insurance company to put in the mail, you would choose warrant. The form defaults to the oldest unpaid, and in the bottom left corner, I see the cleared 1696.82 of unpaid withholdings. I close, and now in my accounting, transactions, and payments, that's what you see on the screen, these items are in the batch. I'm going to select the payments and click Edit. And this is where I'm going to add the employer share. So I have to have the invoice from the insurance company showing the entire amount due. I subtract the amount that has come over from the payroll withholdings, and that's the amount that has to be paid from accounting. I have to be prepared to make the payment. I'm going to import my purchase order. And select the detail at the top and the distribution at the bottom, and click Import. When you import the amount from the purchase order, you have to change the amount that's come over for the unit price. I'm going to put in just the amount of employer share that has to be paid with this invoice. And now the software shows me the distribution, but this isn't really accurate because the purchase orders pulled in with the unspent balance, not just the amounts that I need. So when you import a purchase order, you always have to edit the distribution. Some of you would rather use the data entry line to enter the quantity description and unit price at the top, and then select the POs at the bottom one at a time. Now, I'm not going to help you figure out the distribution. You have to know how to distribute your employer's share of your insurance payment, whether you clear it from payroll or not. This is just the employer's share being added to the employee withholdings. So my purchase order amounts have to be edited. Once I have an undistributed amount of 0, I'm ready to save my payment and move on to the Good Teeth Dental. I'm going to import my purchase order again. PO, selecting the detail and the distribution and import. I'll correct my employer share to the amount needed for the payment. And again, my undistributed amount is not going to be accurate because my purchase order pulled in with the unspent balance, not necessarily the balance that is going to be distributed to those accounts. Once again, I have to know how much should be distributed to each account code. And I'll complete my distribution. My undistributed amount is now 0. My payment is going to match the amount that's going to be taken from my bank account. I can click Save and Close. And that's how you combine the employee withholding to the employer share to create one payment in accounting. The only time you cannot use this process is when the employee share includes carryover encumbrances from the prior year. So usually in January, you will post the employee withholding payment from the payroll software and add a separate accounting payment for the employer share so you do not lose the carryover encumbrance from the prior year. If you send a check in the mail, in January you send both checks to pay the invoice. If you pay electronically, you will clear 2 vouchers when one electronic payment clears the bank. Let's review the remaining unpaid withholding problems that cannot be resolved with the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility. We go to Payroll, Reports and Statements, and Withholding Reports. And on the withholding summary, we'll start with the original post date and select our regular withholdings. That's everything except state retirement. This is looking a lot better than it did before. I have no prior year withholdings, and January through July have 0 unpaid withholdings. Let's scroll to the right. And we can see September still has the withholding credits created by voiding a wage that had paid withholdings. I can't fix that problem with the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility. If you have unused withholding overpayment credits, I recommend you watch the video Managing Withholding Overpayment Credits to see how those problems are resolved. Let's take a look at our state retirement. I'm going to change to the pay period end date and only select my 2 state retirement and click Display. This looks better as well. I have no prior year withholdings that are unpaid, and January through July are 0s. Let's move forward. In August, I still have withholding overpayment credits. Again, watch that video, Managing Withholding Overpayment Credits, to see how this can be corrected. In October, I have wages posted with the wrong pay period. Watch the video, correct the pay period on batch or posted wages to see how to correct those items, and then report them where they belong and pay that withholding. There is nothing left on my regular or state retirement list that requires the use of the Unpaid Withholding Clear utility. I hope the information in this video was helpful. If you need assistance with the steps shown in this video, contact UAN support using the information provided on the screen. All UAN Housekeeping Series videos qualify for House Bill 10 training. If you have any questions about self-reporting your training hours, please call or email your question using the contact information you see on the screen now. This video is not long enough to self-report by itself. If you have only watched this video, you cannot self-report the time. However, if you watch more videos in the housekeeping series and their combined time is at least 30 minutes, you can self-report the combined time.